The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. Talking about the Florida Gators, and I said it in my intro that Florida Gators fans, they give me a ton of support on this channel. Like, I have a ton of Florida Gators supporters who are subscribers and anything, and all those videos do really, really well. And I cannot believe I have not talked about the Florida Gators once yet on this show. I've talked about Texas A&M, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, all these different schools, but I haven't even talked about the Florida Gators. So Florida Gator fans, this one's for you, by the way. Just dropped, you see it, I got the North to South Show hat right here. Just dropped my Florida version, has the Florida State outline, and it is in orange and blue. It looks amazing. Florida fans, definitely go get yours. You can hit the link in the description to go get yours. They'll be on sale for $25. Go get yours. I tell you, these hats are amazing quality. You do not want to miss out, and they look super, super clean. Super clean. Go get one. Let's talk about the Florida Gators and my expectations for this season, because my expectations are going to be way different than your expectations as a Florida Gators fan, or if you're just an average college football fan, your expectations are going to be way different than mine, because I'm in this really, really bad place of my opinion of the Florida Gators, where my opinion or my expectation of the Florida Gators this year is a lot worse than what Florida Gators fans think that they're going to be this season. But that being said, they're still way higher than what lots of people have said about how good the Florida Gators are actually going to be this season, because they are just taking into account the losses that they did have last season and the guys they lost last season, and aren't really looking at the talent and the quality of guys that they have under them. I'm going to be the first guy to come out and say, and I'm pretty sure every single Florida fan, every single fan in college football would agree in saying that you lost a lot of talent, and this offense is not going to be as good as it was last year. It just can't be. That offense was a playoff ready offense. The defense is another story. The defense wasn't there. Otherwise, you would have had a complete team. And I think that this Florida Gators team makes the playoffs again. If they beat Texas A&M, I think if their defense is better, they beat Texas A&M. If their defense is better and their team plays better as a whole, I think they definitely beat LSU in that game. Even if they don't play better, there's just the one shoot throw by Marco Wilson or a missed field goal by McPherson, which I think it wasn't that bad. It was a hard kick to make. I'm not blaming him for that game. But you would have been in that moment, which leads you into the SEC championship, which would put you in a spot to be in the talk about getting into the college football playoff. Once they lost LSU, in my opinion, they were gone. They weren't going to get in. It just wasn't going to happen with two losses. And if you go back to that SEC championship game, like, you might have been a John Mechie not blowing up your DB away and forcing that fumble. Let's say Alabama does turn the ball over there and Florida goes down and score. I think that makes a way different ball game than what we finished out with. It would have made the score a lot closer in the end, and who knows how that game could have shaped out then. And let's say that LSU game, Marco Wilson doesn't throw the shoe. Just those two things, I take those two things, and Florida could have easily been a playoff team last year. Like, it is such minor stuff that you just look at in these games that in the long term did cost Florida last season, because this was a really good team. Now, again, this isn't the same team that they were last year. The offense isn't going to be as good as they were last year. I think the defense isn't bad, but we'll get into the defense later. But let's talk about this offense first. I think Emery Jones alone will be a lot better than people think he is. Obviously, Kyle Trask goes on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, by the way. Absolutely loved that pick by the Buccaneers. I had Kyle Trask going in the first round at 32, but they grab him in second round, have him develop under Brady. I think that's amazing. But Emery Jones, in the short little bits that we did see him last year, you take, for example, the Oklahoma game in the Cotton Bowl, wasn't a great game for Kyle Trask at all, but I think Emery Jones has way more talent and is a much better passer than a lot of people will give him credit for. And obviously he has big shoes to fill because he's stepping in for a Heisman finalist. But Emery Jones, I think, could definitely be a at least top half SEC quarterback. I think he is definitely in that top 7. Top 3 is a bit of a stretch. I still go JT, I still go Matt Corral, and I still go Bryce. That's not in the correct order. I've said Matt Corral is my number 1. I think I even had Bryce Young as my number 2 in my SEC quarterback rankings, or who is my best SEC quarterback. And I think I had JT at number 3. I don't think he's in that top tier yet, but not to say that he can't get there. He's definitely a top tier SEC or top half SEC quarterback going into the season. And I think a lot of people aren't giving him credit for that. Let's talk about this 5-star running back, Demarcus Bowman, coming in from Clemson. that a lot of people just don't talk about. You lose a couple guys in the running back room, but I think that the running back room as a whole is really, really good this season. I'm not saying Texas A&M good. I'm not saying Georgia good. I'm not saying South Carolina good, but it is relatively good next season. Demarcus Bowman, I look at Malik Davis too. I think that Florida's rushing game is going to be fine. I think it may even be better than it was last year. Again, Florida was so heavily invested in the passing attack last season. I think this rushing game will really, really help Emery Jones this season, who's obviously, he's not going to come in and just have an amazing Heisman season and just be throwing dimes all over the place. He still has to work in. Again, going from being the backup and getting backup experience is way different than being the guy and getting the guy experience, the starter experience. Because when you're the backup and you make mistakes, you're hurting the starter's team. When you're the starter and you make mistakes, you're hurting your own team. So I think that Demarcus Bowman and Malik Davis will really, really help Emery Jones get into the rhythm of the game going in. And I think that this wide receiver room, yes, it's not going to be anywhere close to what it was last year. Like, you're talking Cal Pitts, you're talking Kadarius Toney, and you're talking Trevon Grimes. Those three guys were very, very, very good players. Some of the best wide receivers or receivers, pass catchers that I've ever seen in my history of being alive at Florida, of being a college football fan. Again, I haven't been that invested in the game. I've only been in the game for like a decade. So cut me some slack if you're like, oh, you're missing this person. I'm still learning, still got lots to learn. I'm young, and that's why I'm getting into making this content stuff now. But I think Copeland, I think Henderson, I think like guys like Zippier, I look at guys like Whittemore. I don't think that they're going to be as bad as people think. Again, the drop was so big. The players that you had going on were so good that it just makes whoever's under that look a lot worse. And you also look like guys like Shorter. I think that those guys right there, they're not as bad as people are going to think they are. Alabama's going through the same thing right now. You think that people think the guys under them are going to be good. You think that John Mechie, you think that Jameson Williams, you think that Ajayi Hall, guys like that are going to get to the level of Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs. Currently, right now, no one thinks that because no one has seen enough of these guys to make a educated statement. So therefore, you just go to the fact that Alabama's wide receiver core is going to be terrible compared to what it was. When really, in reality, you have no clue. You don't really have any clue what you have in these guys that I just named. I think Copeland's going to be the main guy here. Again, you saw Copeland a lot last year, and I really like Copeland. I think he's a really good player, and I think that he's going to lead this Florida receiving core. And my most underrated guy on this whole Florida Gators team, and again, it's kind of that factor of the guy that you had in front of you was so good that just like people don't pay attention to you. But Gamble, I think Gamble can definitely be one of the better tight ends in all of the SEC. And I think, yes, you're filling in for Kyle Pitts, who is arguably one of the greatest tight ends that college football has ever seen. But Gamble is my most underrated player on this Florida team. I have no problem going out there and saying that. Kier Allen is one of the best players in all of college football. I think that he's an easy first rounder for the Florida Gators next season, obviously in the secondary for him. I don't think Florida's defense will be that bad. It wasn't great last year, but I don't think that they're having any major changes to this defense in terms of a personnel standpoint. Yes, you lose Marco Wilson, but if I'm a Florida fan, I'd want him gone anyways for what he did. I think that this D-line, too, with Brenton Cox and Zachary Carter and Gravon Dexter, I still think that they got a really, really good D-line. And I think Florida in general, as a team right now, I look at this team, and when people say that they're going to finish like 6-6, or this Florida team's going to finish like 7-5 and have that many losses, I think that this is at least an 8+ win team, But with that being said, this kind of gets us into my whole expectation discussion of, is this team good enough to beat Georgia? Are they good enough to beat Alabama? Are they good enough to beat LSU? Because you got a meaty schedule this year. I think the most important one out of all these is Georgia, so we're going to save that for last, but let's get into Alabama and LSU. I think Alabama's offense in total, yes, I just said that there's so much talent on this Florida offense and people really underestimate them. I just don't think that they're at the scoring level that Alabama will be at this season. Alabama scores, and they score fast, and they score a lot. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough from Florida this season to be like, yeah, Florida will definitely go toe-to-toe with Alabama and their offense next season. I feel really good about Bryce Young. I feel really good about the rushing game at Alabama and the receiving game out there. So I just don't think that they can beat Alabama. Yes, you get this game in Florida. Yes, the environment in Florida is going to help you. It's going to be an amazing game. Definitely one of the bigger SEC games of the season, probably top 2. You look at this one, and then you look at probably Georgia, Florida, or like Alabama, Texas A&M. This is definitely going to be SEC championship rematch. Do I think that they have what it takes to beat Alabama? No. I think that Alabama's defense has got a lot better this year, even though they lost a couple guys. Obviously, look at Patrick Surtain, but they got a lot of good talent on that defense still that people just haven't taken note of. So Alabama, I really, really don't think that they're good enough to beat Alabama yet this season. Again, I could be completely wrong, but again, I don't know. LSU. And this isn't just because I'm wearing an LSU jersey. I'm not an LSU fan. I just had the jersey. I'm a big jersey collector. I love Joe Burrow this season. And of course, I got the number 9 on there. So I picked up the jersey. I'm a jersey collector. It's what I do. LSU next season, again, I think that I don't know what to call LSU, if we're being honest, because LSU is the team with the talent to be a really top tier college football team. But will they produce at a level that will make them a top tier college football team? You look at Derek Stingley, probably the best corner in all of college football. You still have him. I think Miles Brennan, even Max Johnson, after watching Max Johnson in LSU spring game, he could definitely be the starter there. I just think LSU has a really, really good quarterback battle, and whoever lands there is going to be a good guy. And I think TJ Finley has just entered the transfer portal. So it's going to be Miles Brennan or it's going to be Max Johnson. Everything about LSU, the receiving game with Moody and everything, the defense, I still think is very, very good. LSU has the talent to be a really good team this year. You travel to Death Valley. Again, that's another thing. This game isn't at Florida this year because last year was in Florida. This game is going to be in Death Valley, LSU. It's going to be really, really tough. I'm not saying that this is an automatic loss for Florida. I'm not saying that this is an automatic loss for LSU. This is a true toss-up game. This could be 50-50, and a lot more is going to be dealt with as the season goes on and as everything becomes more clear. Now going on to Georgia, because this is the one that all Florida fans are going to be here for. Do I expect Florida to beat Georgia? I'm going to be straight up and say it. No, I don't think that Florida is good enough to beat Georgia this season. I had Florida beating Georgia last season. I think that Florida was definitely the better football team last season. Even if Georgia had JT Daniels last season, I still think that Florida wins that game. I don't care what the Georgia fans say, but I think that Georgia's a tier above, especially offensively this year and defensively. I feel really, really good about this front for Georgia this season. They're going to get some serious pressure on the quarterbacks, whoever they're going up against, and they're going to get home. But JT Daniels, you got one of the best running back rooms in all of college football, let alone the SEC, in Zamir White, in James Cook. You got tons of talent there. Yes, you have Pickens out, but your receiving core, I still think, is really, really good over there in Georgia. I just think Georgia will be able to score more, and Georgia will be able to stop this Florida offense way more than this Florida defense will be able to stop Georgia's offense. I think that Georgia's just the better team on both sides of the ball. I take them on both sides of the ball. But again, that's not to say that Florida can't win this game. That's not to say that Florida can't win the Alabama game. That's not to say Florida can't win the LSU game. Again, these are just my expectations and what I think of Florida this season. I had my Gamecocks as a toss-up game in my Florida 2021 season predictions. I had the Gamecocks as a toss-up game. I think I might have had like Missouri in there. I had some questionable ones. And to be honest, I don't know what to think of this Florida Gators team, but what I do know is that this is definitely a better than 6-6 team, which I've seen people say that they are a 6-6 or 7-5 or something like that. I think this team at least gets eight wins. I think that they definitely take care of business against like Kentucky, Tennessee. They take care of business against Vandy, obviously Florida State. Again, I said South Carolina was a toss-up, which I do think you go to South Carolina. I don't think that that's going to be an easy game by any means, but Florida still has work to do, and who knows? They could be a really good team this year, but that's my expectations for Florida. I don't see them winning Georgia. I don't see them winning Alabama, and I see LSU as a true toss-up. So I'm looking somewhere around the 10-2, 9-3 range for Florida at the end of the season.